All right, so last thing about the whole Epstein saga from yesterday, and I've got more audio on that and so forth, but I don't want to dwell on it too long. There's a lot of other things I want to talk about, but it's all innuendo and obfuscation is what it is. And CNN, they are just over and over on this story. And I'm just telling you, they're trying to make it happen. Oh, Sam's got a traffic update?
Yeah, I got to provide a quick update. So that crash out on 24 towards Clarksville is got that side of the interstate completely closed down now. We'll probably get some more information as to why, but it is completely closed from 24 if you're headed westbound out of town between Martin Luther King Parkway exit 11 and Rossview Road exit 8. I would start finding an alternate route.
All right, so 24 westbound. So is that like north of town?
Yeah, headed out.
Headed out of town,
yeah,
okay.
Headed past Clarksville. They've totally shut it down. We'll probably get an update as to why here in a minute.
Way up there, okay. So that's not going to inhibit Chris Hand from getting to work early today or on time today?
Magically, it could somehow affect him. You know how traffic is weird like that here.
Sure. Yeah, he could use that as an excuse to be late. All right, well, thank you. Keep us updated if you would. So, yeah, as far as the Epstein thing goes, I'm gonna do a little bit more on this later on. But I just think the Democrats, they know that they've lost the plot on the shutdown. And so now they're regurgitating all of this yet again. And I do agree that all of this stuff should have been released a long time ago. The Republicans do need to release it. But we're still talking about thousands of documents, apparently, that have not yet been released. But I have a question. I was just watching. CNN's got another poll out where they talk about who do the American people blame for the shutdown in Congress, right? And so CNN is like, this is a very big deal to them because their poll saying that the majority of the American people blame the Republicans in Congress. Can I ask a question then? So if the Democrats believe that the American people believed that the shutdown was the fault of the Republicans, then why did they bend? Why did they cave? Why didn't they just prolong the suffering of the American people? I think that's a valid question to ask. I think that part of what's going on is the Democrats and some of these Democrat-run pollsters out there, I think part of what they're doing is they're trying to make a narrative happen. Because I don't believe that the American people looked at this as a Republican problem. I think the American people are smart. And they can do math, and they know how many Republicans and how many Democrats are in the Senate. And the fact that 8 total Democrats crossed over to vote with the Republicans to vote for the government to come back open. By the way, real quick, I think people are really mad at this $500,000 payoff that we talked about yesterday. So if you missed the story, was that yesterday or the day before? We had the story break where you have the Senate, the senators in the Senate, the Republican senators in the Senate. There you go, Mandis. And they've written into this continuing resolution $500,000 payoff if they were targeted by Biden's DOJ. We had Congressman John Rose on the show, and he broke all of this down. And so people are asking the question, wait a minute, so the Republicans in the Senate, they basically self-dealt themselves, $500,000 if they were targeted by the DOJ. And by the way, ultimately, it could be up to at least $1 million. And so Anna Paulina Luna put this out, and it went viral, of course. As you can imagine, these senators slipped in a provision to reopen the government that guarantees them $500,000 if DOJ settles their Arctic frost lawsuit. She says, we're supposed to be okay with that. Really? She says, what about J6? Yeah, I would ask the same question. What about the J6ers? She says, this is outrageous. Really disappointed to see some of the names on this list. You can't self-deal like this, especially not by weaponizing a government shutdown. Absolutely ridiculous. So who are the 8 senators? This is what Anna Paulina Luna says. You've got Senator Marsha Blackburn, Tennessee. Senator Bill Hagerty, Tennessee. Senator Lindsey Graham, South Carolina. Senator Josh Hawley, Missouri. Ron Johnson, Wisconsin. Cynthia Loomis, Wyoming. Dan Sullivan, Alaska. And Senator Tommy Tuberville out of Alabama. So, people are losing their ever-loving minds over this $500,000 or $1 million, depending, because basically, number one, they did this really in the dark of night, if you will, slipping this into the continuing resolution. And so there's a lot of very angry Americans at the thought of these senators getting $500,000 of taxpayer money because they were targeted by Biden's DOJ. Now, this is what's interesting, though. Luna's list was all over the place yesterday. The names of those senators, again, Hagerty, Graham, Blackburn, Hawley, Johnson, Loomis, Sullivan, and Tommy Tuberville. But there are other lists that are slightly different that the senators named in the lawsuit and will get the payouts. The names of those senators are the following. Ted Cruz, whose name was not on the Anna Paulina Luna post. Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Blackburn, Lee, Rand Paul, Rick Scott, and Senator Loomis out of Wyoming and Tommy Tuberville. And so the list is slightly different. You'll notice that in other reporting, the name of Bill Hagerty is not on the list. So I'm trying to figure out, and I'm trying to get both of these senators on, but I'm pretty certain they're not going to, because it's pretty impossible to get them on. But the provision basically says that any senator whose data has been breached or violated can bring civil action against the United States if that violation happened within the federal government. So if the DOJ starts accessing your phone records or data or text messages and they don't notify you ahead of time, then you can go back and sue, get $500,000 for each violation. Even the Republicans in the House of Representatives are pissed. You know who else is angry? The J6ers, who they were thrown in jail. They were thrown in jail, and they have absolutely no way to recoup what they lost. But these senators do. Because remember, the J6ers, they were under massive investigation. And then, in my opinion, they were thrown in jail, unjustly so. And finally, Donald Trump, of course, as you know, let them out in the great J6 pardon, and it was great. But they have no way to recover financially. But these senators do. And they wrote it into the legislation as a provision into the CR, trying to slip it right on through. No discussion, no debate, and absolutely no transparency. Mike Johnson was asked about the $500,000 to $1 million payout that these senators decided to write into the continuing resolution for themselves. This is what the House Speaker said. He was ticked.
Questions, yes.
You said earlier that you would repeal that FBI provision that's in the bill right now. Do you have assurances from Leader Thune that he will bring it up in the Senate?
I did call Leader Thune this morning. I want to say that he's a principled leader. I've enjoyed working with him. We've had a great working relationship and a good friendship. He's a trustworthy, honest broker. And that's why I was so surprised when we found out about that provision. It was put in our clean CR at the last moment. I'm just to be honest, I'm very transparent with you all. I was very angry about it. I was. And a lot of my members called me and said, did you know about it? We had no idea. That was dropped in at the last minute. And I did not appreciate that, nor did most of the House members. Many of them are very angry about that. So we will be bringing that up. We'll probably pass it on suspension early next week, and we'll send it over to the Senate. I had a conversation with Leader Thune early this morning about it. I think he regretted the way it was done, and we had an honest conversation about that. I didn't ask him for any commitment at that time because I had a lot on my plate today, and I've been busy ever since that conversation we had early this morning. But I'm going to speak as truthfully to him as I am to all of you and tell you that I think that was way out of line. I don't think that was a smart thing to do. I don't think it was the right thing to do, and the House is going to reverse it. We're going to repeal that, and I'm going to expect our colleagues in the Senate to do the same thing.
So there you go. But I think it passed. I mean, I think the House of Representatives, they passed it, and on it went to Donald Trump. And again, to be honest, I don't mind having that discussion, but to slip this into the provision into a continuing resolution, it seems to me they didn't really want any light to shine on this. This is just not a good look. And my biggest issue is to do this retroactively so that they are now demanding this money or the government will remain shut down. I don't like it. The $500,000, and it turns out to be more than that. Here's how it works. If $500,000, it is $500,000 plus an additional $500,000 if a non-disclosure order was involved, which means that it could be up to $1 million. Now, again, remember, this investigation was from back in 2022 when Biden's DOJ went and got access to their phones, and they had no idea. We found out about all of this a month ago, and so now they feel emboldened, it would appear, to slip this into the continuing resolution. So, yeah, John Rose, he was on my show yesterday, Congressman John Rose, running for governor. He was on my show yesterday when he broke the news to us.
The Senate had put into this a chance for certain senators who were investigated wrongly, I think, by the Biden administration Justice Department, for them to get a $500,000 payoff, it looks like. I think a lot of Republicans and Democrats in the House are upset about learning this, that these Republican senators who were the subject of nefarious Biden Justice Department intrusion into their private communications. But now it appears that something has been put in this bill that would allow them to get up to $500,000 from taxpayers. And I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think it's a good look for that to be snuck into this bill.
Yeah, and I agree with the congressman. What's that?
It did pass.
It did pass. All right, fine. So apparently it passed. And basically what this does, allowing the U.S. senators to file civil lawsuits if their phone records are subpoenaed, searched, or disclosed without prior notification. And again, if you want to have that conversation moving forward, that's a great conversation to have. But again, to sneak this in,
it's a bad look. And I hope that both of our U.S. senators will immediately and aggressively disavow any intention to seek this money. And I would call on them to do that.
So we have not heard, as far as I can tell, and I've been trolling both of their Twitter feeds this morning. I have not seen where they've made any comments whatsoever. I do want to make clear that I'm not exactly certain how it got in there, if like all 8 of them or however many there were, I think there were like 7 or 8, if they all sort of connived to get it in there or if there was like one person that did it, I don't know. And I haven't necessarily seen any comments from the senators, Blackburn or Haggerty. So we'll continue to watch that. I'm going to continue to try to get them on the radio program because I think that it is an important conversation that we do need to have. By the way, I'm getting blasted because I said that Jasmine Crockett was thick.
Told you.
So
Yeah.
I did not know that to the younger generation, thick, when you say somebody's thick, it means that you find them attractive.
Yeah.
I had no
Just a little
idea.
bit. It's implied.
And you two youngsters over there, you just left me hanging out there to dry.
Well,
It's like, really, Dan, we didn't know that you were attracted to Jasmine Crockett. When
listen,
I said,
I'm not going to assume anything.
well, to put it in the proper context, this was in the 5 o'clock hour. She is making fun of whatever this MAGA woman look is. And so I said, well, you know what? She's got no room to talk. She's a little thick. I mean, if we're going to talk, but I wasn't implying that I thought that she was attractive.
I don't know
Listen,
what
I'm not gonna
version
assume.
of that statement he's going to keep because they're all perfect.
She's got a bigger bottom. And there's nothing wrong with that. Am I just
Here, let me give you
am
a
I
shovel
just-
so you can stop using your
Okay,
hands.
whatever.
Grave.
I'm not
Doug.
insulting her.
No, you're not.
I'm just saying that, number one, that is factually true. And number two, she shouldn't be going off talking about, casting these wide nets over MAGA women, especially when she's standing next to an 8-foot drag queen.
That's the point to make.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the better point to make?
Yeah, just remove that word thick from your vocabulary on that argument, and I think you're fine. I think you're fine.
Friends, family, listeners are all telling me the real true meaning of the word thick, and you two just let me keep on going.
Well, I was going to tell you after the 50.
You're going to tell me after I said it like 5 times?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mason. You're always there for me. I so
got
much
you.
appreciate that.
Eventually.
Eventually, after I've completely torpedoed my career. Thank you very much for joining us, and there is a lot going on. By the way, I have sent text messages to my contacts in the Haggerty campaign, also, not campaign, but the Haggerty team, and also the Blackburn team, asking if they'd like to come on and talk about the $500,000 buyout, because people are ticked off. And so I'll let you know if they hit me back. Hopefully they'll come on either my show or Chris Hand's show, maybe Chad's show, or, Murphy's show. But I think they've got to get in front of this. Don't they have to get in front of this?
Oh, absolutely.
I think they got to get in front of this. So we'll see if they respond. Sometimes politicians like to hide.
Just a little bit.
Waiting for the whole thing to blow over is what they do. I don't think this one's going to blow over. We'll have to wait and see what happens. The decline of New York continues. I want you to check this out. This was on the streets of New York. This was a couple of nights ago. This is a woman named Nerdine Kiswani. Listen to what she says.
Over 2,500 police officers resigned this year, a record number. One of the main reasons they gave is supposedly inhumane overtime hours due to these protests.
She's very exciting. Nerdine Kiswani, who has not only been a big-time advocate for Zoran Mamdani, but they've made appearances together. And the point I'm making, she's one of these, pro-Palestine people, anti-Semitic, just, the type. At this point, sadly, we all know the type. Hell, you had New York, and they elected one for mayor. And so they're out there. She's on a statue of some sort, and she's celebrating. They're all celebrating the resignation of police. And so, again, they're about no cops and all of that nonsense. And so they are getting their wish. This headline. The New York Police Department is now reporting that even before Mamdani was elected, police were bailing. They saw a 35% jump in police officers leaving just last month. Because I think that the cops knew that the city was going to elect this Democrat socialist, right? It's communist. 245 officers left in the month of October. Compare that to 181 in 2024. In October of 2024. So they're leaving in droves. And the reason why they're leaving in droves is because clearly they know how the people of New York feel about them.
So just to take a temperature check, how many of y'all would come out on Christmas Day and ruin their Christmas Day?
Did you hear what she said? She said, how many of you would like to come out on Christmas Day? Because that's why she says that's why cops are leaving the force because of these protests and all of that overtime. So now she's out there with her bullhorn saying, how many of us want to come out here on Christmas Day to force the police officers to come out and have to work on Christmas Day?
So just to take a temperature check, how many of y'all would come out on Christmas Day and ruin their Christmas Day? So if y'all are down, we're going to take over Christmas and New Year's too. We're not going to let these cops, these politicians, these ignorant people, these media companies enjoy these holidays. Christmas is canceled!
Such a lovely crowd. So I kid you not, this happened to me yesterday. So I pulled that audio, pulled that story, and then I saw this headline that Democrats and progressives are having less babies. Now, I just played you that audio. They want to go out on Christmas Day and New Year's Eve and start continue their silly protests instead of spending time with their family. So I'm not real surprised that Democrats and progressives are having fewer babies, certainly fewer than Republicans.
No, Timmy, I can't hang out with you on Christmas Eve. I've got to go protest.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, number one, I can't imagine being in a relationship with something like that.
When you're right, Dan.
I don't see her as thick, to use the vernacular of the young. Moving right along. Maybe the reason why, though, is that the reason why they're not having babies is because they want to take these cherished family holidays like Christmas and New Year's Eve and protest out of spite. So the Daily Mail poses the question, right? Republicans are having more babies. Why is that? And of course, that is good news, I would say, for the future of Americans, and for our country. But they say that this is the headline. I'm not even going to read the headline because it's now 6:45 and there are kids in the car. But this is indeed shifting American politics. Republicans could be poised to enjoy decades of political dominance due to a wide discrepancy in birth rates between conservatives and liberals. A Daily Mail analysis has revealed. So again, tie this into the audio video that I just played where you've got these nut jobs wanting to go out and protest on Christmas Day and New Year's Eve. As of 2024, right-leaning couples were reproducing at 1.5 times the rate of their left-wing counterparts, according to data from the U.S. General Social Survey. Now, remember, Democrats have always said that Republicans being pro-family and having kids and all that. Remember, Charlie Kirk said, get married, have kids. So the left will say, oh, well, this is just the Republicans wanting to continue on with their white supremacy. Remember all that nonsense? Okay, but here's the deal. Conservatives have been outpacing liberals when it comes to reproduction in varying degrees as far back as 1974, which is the first year that the survey began collecting this data. Last year, the average number of children born to, I'm gonna air quote this, right-wing parents worked out to, I don't know how they do this, 2.18 children per person. Now, I don't know how they have 2.18 children per person. I don't know how who's the 0.18? Is that the one you didn't want?
Circumcision.
Circumcision accidents? Is that what it is?
Yep, probably.
Big foreskin.
The figure is the same that conservative parents had in 1986, a time when the overall fertility rate was 13% higher than it is today. So liberals had just 1.42 children on average in 2024, meaning they procreate 12% less than the general population. They could be aborting the babies. I'm sorry, did that make everybody uncomfortable?
A little bit.
My bad. The data suggests that if current trends hold, leftism and liberalism could significantly wane in its societal influence. Listen, I hope so, because I don't know about you folks, but I've had just about enough of this. And I keep saying the last couple of days, I got all kinds of heck fire from people. You're always bashing Trump. I'm not. Last couple, it's been a bad week. I'm not going to lie on that. I'm not going to take back anything that I said, but everything that I say is put it in the proper context. That's all I'm saying. I still think Trump has some great wins. I disagree with him on stuff, but unlike people on the left, one or two little disagreements, I'm not going to cancel Donald Trump. But they do say that, you know what, leftism and liberalism could eventually wane in our society because they're just not procreating. So I do hope that's true. Here's my hope for the future. More conservatives born, numbers would be on our side. Chris Hand has 4 kids at the age of what? What is he, 36, 37?
37.
More power to him, man. More conservatives born, numbers are going to be on our side. more young adults avoiding colleges and going to trade schools. That is also what I hope for America's younger generation. No offense to Sam, you're going to college, more power to you. But I would like to see more young adults avoiding college and going to trade schools. That is what I want to see. That would be good because the colleges, they are where a lot of this indoctrination is happening and leaving these young adults riddled with massive debt and stupidity. Now, I assume the Democrats are going to continue to be really extreme, and with that, America finally rejects them and they get tossed aside. Now, as I've been saying since the elections last week or the week, but whenever that was, last couple of weeks, New York and Virginia and all that, it's my hope that Democrats are going to do what Democrats are going to do, and by the time the midterm elections come along in 2026, you know what's going to happen? We'll have seen enough. And Donald Trump is going to course correct in some of the things that he wants to do. We'll see the ramifications or the benefits of Trump's tax cuts. The tariffs continue to go through. Hopefully the Supreme Court is on our side on that. And we'll continue to have wins. Wins after win after win after win. I hope that that's what happens for the next 12 months. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But for the Democrats, if they continue along their merry way and they continue not to have kids or they continue to abort their children, then you know what? Sad for the kids. Absolutely sad for the kids. And we talk about that a lot. But for conservatives, have more kids, continue to raise your kids as conservative. And I know that there are some people that are screaming at the radio right now, saying, yeah, but a lot of kids, they ultimately end up going against the upbringing of their parents. A lot of people reacting to the last segment and liberals, progressives not having babies. A lot of people saying, well, part of the reason is because, Republicans can tell the difference between men and women and liberals can't.
Survival of the fittest.
Yes. Plus, it doesn't help if you start pumping yourself full of cross-sex hormones. Your body's not really going to reproduce naturally.
Yeah.
That too. By the way, I also made a comment about people growing up and they go against their parents' upbringing, because that does happen all the time. And somebody says, that's right, Dan, you've gone against your liberal upbringing. No. My dad, I've told this story, but just very briefly, my dad was a big-time conservative. And I went through a period in my, teens, early 20s, had the long hair, had the beard, had the know-it-all attitude, and I was a total freak job leftist. My dad was like, are you kidding me? This is what I've raised. This is what you've become. And he was beside himself. Like my dad, he was not happy. He tried to convince me, but son, don't you see, right? And then what turned it all around for me was I was doing my taxes. My dad and I were doing my taxes. And it turns out I owed a lot of taxes. And I freaked out. Because I was like 21, 22, and I had probably $800 to my name, and I owed like $3,000 in taxes. I absolutely flipped my lid. And the problem was I had all of these part-time jobs because nobody would give me a full-time job. Mason, you know all about that.
I was going to say, what's that like?
And so I didn't take the proper tax preparation. And so then my dad, he saw the opportunity and he's like, well, son, let's talk about where your money's going. And he goes through socialism and he goes through, the Democrats and where my money goes when it goes into this black hole that is the government. And we talked about, subsidies and just all that stuff that conservatives, we all now know about, small government and big government and the differences and all of that kind of stuff. And he saw that opportunity to say, well, let's talk about where your dollar goes, your taxpayer dollars go. And it was like, boom. It was like a a switch in my head just flipped. And I think it was within 6 months that I cut my hair and I shaved my beard. I looked like Axl Rose. And then all of a sudden, I am like a card-carrying Republican. That's all it took was a good lesson from my dad in what being a Democrat was really all about.